Today we're going to show you how to do a visual, used car inspection. This will be the test drive portion. I feel this is like the most important part of a used car inspection, because on this test drive we're going to be listening and trying to find things that will direct us where to go and what to check once the vehicle's in the shop and for our mechanical inspection. We're going to want to listen for noises, see if they feel any vibrations. We're looking for service engine lights, ABS lights, airbag lights, check all of our gauges. Want to make sure gauges are working correctly, make sure the vehicle is heating up correctly, check our fuel gauge, any gauge or accessory that we're going to use in the future. We want to make sure it works before we buy the car. So we're going to kind of go through, want to roll all of our windows up and down, all the way down, all the way up, so we can check and make sure those work. Make sure all your door locks go all the way up and all the way down, and every one of them locks and unlocks. Check your power mirrors, make sure those all work in all different directions so we know the mirrors are good. And I want to check the cruise while we're on our test drive. Check your wipers, make sure the wipers work correctly. Go through and check your heating and AC systems, make sure defrosters work, make sure your heat works in all modes, on the floor, on the vents, as well as on the windshield. Make sure that the defroster comes on correctly and works. Make sure the blower speed works in all 4 or 5 speed levels. You want to make sure that your seat belts lock and unlock, front and back seats. That's really important. Another thing, a really important thing to do is make sure all your lighting, inside lighting works. Your dome lights, your interior lights, make sure they all come on and go off correctly. And the good thing to do is have the person that owns the car previously kind of walk through with you and show you how these things work. Because trying to figure them out on your own can be quite difficult, and a lot of times you'll bring a car to the shop thinking you have a problem with the car you just purchased, and there's really no problem at all. It's just that you didn't know how to use it, or use whatever accessory it was correctly. So if you can get the owner or previous owner to spend some time with you showing you how these things work, how the accessories work, how to open a trunk or whatever, if you're not sure, that's a really good time to do it. So like I said before, check out your doors, your windows, your locks, your seats. Make sure the horn works, your wipers, your washers, your cruise control, your daytime running lights. Go through and open and close all the doors, make sure they all open and close properly. Take the lock cylinder or the key you have and make sure it works in your trunk, make sure it works in all your doors if necessary. Check your little keyless entry, make sure that opens and closes all your locks and pops your trunk if it has one. And that pretty much covers a good portion of the interior stuff. And then on the test drive itself, once you get on the highway, because we're going to want to spend about 30 minutes test driving any used car you buy. You want to do about a 10 to 15 minute test drive around town, then about a 10 to 15 minute test drive on a highway. That way you can make sure the car is not going to overheat, make sure that your AC is working correctly, your heat is working correctly. You can check your speedometer, make sure that's working correctly. You want to look for any kind of drifts or pulls. So make sure the car drives straight down the road, even with your hands off the steering wheel for a few seconds, you can verify that the track's straight. If it doesn't, we might have tire or alignment problems to worry about. We're going to want to listen for any noises or vibrations or rubbing, anything, exhaust noises, engine noises, any type of a noise that may seem out of place or doesn't seem normal to you, or a kind of abnormal noise. That way when we get it back to the shop and up in the air, we can go through and do a really good in-depth inspection on the vehicle, and it'll kind of key us in on those areas. The test drive itself, a lot of times we can pass or fail a vehicle just on the test drive alone. And so right now we're jumping on the highway. We want to get the vehicle up to speed at 55 to 70 mile an hour, and just make sure everything feels right, sounds right. Make sure the transmission shifts correctly. You can downshift it from 3rd back up to 4th. Just make sure everything moves correctly. Check our wipers while we're on the road. Make sure those all function correctly. Make sure your washers work. Just kind of do a good visual and feel of the vehicle. Make sure your seats all go forward and backward. The power seats work. And like I said, we're just looking for any lights that might pop on the dash that may have been erased or removed from the previous owner trying to hide something. So we're just trying to find things that the previous owner may have been trying to hide. And a good 30-minute test drive will usually find anything somebody's trying to hide. And once we get done with that, we'll get it back in the shop, get her up in the air, and do our mechanical inspection.